Well, hello, and welcome to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast. I'm your host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We are in the middle of a series called Conference Chats. We are gearing up for our Charlotte Mason Enrichment Summer Conference happening July 17th and 18th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and virtually. And one of the sessions that we're doing this year is we're taking a look at the top 5 Charlotte Mason curriculums and having users, experienced users, share on this curriculum, because a lot of moms who begin in the Charlotte Mason method have lots of questions about which curriculum to choose. And so we wanted to record this podcast and have a session that gives people a deep dive into that so that it can be an aid to you on your educational journey. And so I have the presenters of the session. I have Kelsey Hess, Emily Watts, Sarah Logston, Laura Shepard, and Stephanie Harness on the episode with me today. Welcome, ladies, to the show. They're smiling and they say hello. And that would be a lot if they all said hi. So like I mentioned, a lot of moms who are getting started or maybe have started and have maybe hit a bump in the road, they want to know what curriculum to use. That is always like the top question, is like, how do I get started? There seems like there's so many options. And I know for people who started long ago, who maybe already have kids in college, there weren't a lot of options when they started educating and using Charlotte Mason's principles. And now there's a lot of options. And so it can be helpful to talk to users who can tell you all the ins and outs of what the curriculum has to offer, maybe the strengths that it has, the weaknesses that it has, if it's open and go. There's all the questions that people have. So we're going to jump into that today. And so just a couple of thoughts that we wanted to share with people as they're looking into the curriculum that I think can really help you as you're looking. Because I know when I first started homeschooling, not using Charlotte Mason, I was like, well, I just want to find curriculum that looks pretty. I know that's very shallow, but that was what was important to me. I was really concerned about the look of things. And, if it was easy, I had a newborn, so open and go seemed like that was appealing to me. But there's a certain mindset that you need to have, as you're doing your research and your due diligence to decide what is a good fit for your family. And so a few things that we talked about, and I'm going to call on some of the ladies to share before we get into the comparison. But, one thing that is important to decide when you're deciding whether curriculum is going to be a good fit for you, you want to think about what is going to aid me in my educational goals for my children and for my family. Like, where are we going and how is this curriculum going to come alongside and help us? And, sometimes people have used the phraseology of how the curriculum should serve you and not the other way around. You shouldn't feel like you're a slave to the curriculum, but that it should be support to you. So that's one thing that, is an important mindset to have. And I know, Laura, you kind of had some thoughts around that. I would love to hear your experience when you were first starting finding a curriculum.
Yeah. So, I think the main thing to kind of keep in mind is kind of your own personality and learning style yourself. But it's important as you're picking to keep in mind that, especially if you're new to Charlotte Mason and the Charlotte Mason philosophy, um, it's going to kind of feel overwhelming to begin with. Maybe like you don't really know exactly what you're doing, and that's okay. That's normal. It's not really like a problem with the curriculum per se. It's just you're learning something new, and I liked to, you know, take it slowly, one thing at a time, as I was learning about the philosophy, so that I wouldn't get overwhelmed by trying to do everything all at once.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So just learning, like recognizing like, hey, there's a learning curve that's ahead of me, and that's really okay. Is that kind of what? your thoughts were.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that it's gonna be normal no matter what the curriculum, because the
Yeah.
Charlotte Mason philosophy is going to be just a little bit of a mindset shift if you're particularly thinking or used to a more traditional educational philosophy, and so that, taking the time to be aware of that, be okay with that, and allow yourself to kind of grow alongside of your kids, as you're becoming
Yeah.
more immersed in the philosophy, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
gets
no,
easier
that's
though.
yes, it really does. And um, it's like you have to kind of give yourself that grace to recognize that like, hey, this there's a lot of newness here for me and for my kids and for our whole family. So giving yourself like a grace year or two would be really good to just know that it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment. So just knowing that going in, I think is really helpful. So another thing that before we dive into taking a look at these curriculums is just as you're giving a lot of time and attention to learning the curriculum, maybe to take a few steps back and to invest just as much time in understanding Charlotte Mason's principles. Because if you have a good understanding of her principles, it will probably make the decision on curriculum a little bit easier, because once you understand her principles, then you can figure out which curriculum will best help you to execute her principles. Kelsey, you had mentioned something along those lines before about how, there's no perfect curriculum, but a lot of them are centered around implementing her principles. Do you mind sharing on that a little bit?
Of course. Yeah, I think that that really is brings so much clarity because no matter what curriculum, like Laura said, that there is a learning curve to it. So you can, if you learn about the principles, you can see, oh, well, this is how I think Charlotte Mason might have interpreted that for my given child
Mm.
because our children are born persons. So it kind of gives you a little bit of that clarity whenever you're looking at the curriculums and just making those adjustments because every family is different and these curriculums are supposed to be made for, people with one kid or five kids homeschooling. So in order kind of giving yourself that confidence too as you go, if you learn kind of like the heart of where Charlotte Mason's coming from with the philosophy, I think it helps you make a lot of those curriculum decisions a little bit easier.
No, that's so good. Okay, so Sarah, I think you've been probably homeschooling the longest of all of us that are on this episode. How did you go about learning and understanding Charlotte Mason's principles when you were first going in? Because your background is that you were a school teacher, and so this was a different way of learning and teaching for you. So how did you go about that?
It definitely was. I just started reading the volumes and talking about it with friends, one friend in particular, and um, trying to figure out what that would look like when our kids were really, really little, like from the beginning. So we were a few years in to doing this and feeling like, okay, I think I'm kind of understanding Charlotte Mason. But then had like a kid moving into middle school and had more like coming down the pipe who were getting ready to join our school. And so I felt like those years, as I was realizing I'm going to have to manage more, finding a curriculum that kind of fit multiple kids at multiple levels, one that would support me a little bit more than like me having, oh, this is so fun to write lesson plans because I was a teacher and I kind of enjoyed digging around and looking at books. That seemed less fun as I went along. But I felt like that jump into trying to find a supportive curriculum really launched me into learning more about Charlotte Mason because
Yeah.
it really provided a lot of teacher training as well. And so I think all of that together, like learning my kids, getting comfortable with little pieces and then adding more. And then at some point feeling like I really want to jump in and invest even more in figuring out what this is going to look like for my born persons, as Kelsey said.
Yeah, well, that's so good. That's so good. Okay, well, we're going to jump into talking about the curriculums more. So I hope that kind of helps you to have the right mindset as you're going in into, doing that deep dive and figuring out what's going to be best for your family. And so I'm going to have each lady, I've kind of already like talked about them, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves and just tell what curriculum they use in their house and the ages of their kids. And then we'll go with some more specific questions about their curriculum. Okay. So first we have Emily. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you, Elise.
Yeah.
I'm Emily Watts, and I have 3 boys. They are ages 11, 14, and 16. And the curriculum we use is A Gentle Feast. It was created by Julie Ross 10 years ago in 2016. We started using it around 2018. And I've been homeschooling for 12 years.
That's awesome. Wow. Very great. Well, we look forward to hearing more from you and about the Gentle Feast. Sarah, we're going to have you share next. Oh, you're muted.
So sorry. Sarah, and we use the Alveary curriculum, and we have used that for 9 or 10 years. I was trying to add up in my head a second ago. I think maybe this is finishing 9th year, but it was the very beginning of when the Alveary started. So have been with it for a bit now. My kids are 20, so I have a college kiddo, almost 17, who will be a senior next year, and a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, next we're going to have Laura share.
Yes, I'm Laura Shepherd, and we use Ambleside Online. And so we've been using that for about 8 years now. And I have a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, and 9-year-old twins.
That's awesome. Thank you, Laura. And Stephanie is going to share.
I'm Stephanie Harness, and I use the CMEC, also known as the Charlotte Mason Educational Center. I have 4 children. My oldest is 10 years old. His name is Rawling. And then I've got Jovi, who's 8, Declan, who is 4, and Cedar, who is 3. And we've been using the CMEC for 5 years now.
That's awesome. So you've got 8, school-age children, and then you've got little babies.
Yep, got the little ones.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, and last but not least, we have Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Hess, and I use Simply Charlotte Mason, and I'm about to wrap up my 5th year homeschooling, and my kids are 16, 11, and 10.
Wow, that's awesome. So as you guys can see, we have all different seasons of life. We've got moms that have been, educating with Charlotte Mason for a while, some that are a little on the newer side, but we have all seasons and walks represented. So we're going to talk about what drew each individual to the curriculum and what keeps them using it, because I think that is an important thing. One thing we talked about earlier is that you need to kind of stick with it for a little while to really get experience with it. Like if you're switching curriculums every year, it can be really hard to really get in a groove and to figure out how to make adjustments, because spoiler alert, there is no perfect curriculum and they all have pros and cons. And so you have to just weigh if the juice is worth the squeeze and if it's worth sticking with it, but you won't know if you're going to switch fairly often. So we're going to circle back to Emily with the Gentle Feast and just tell us what drew you to the curriculum and what keeps you using it.
Okay, so I was drawn to A Gentle Feast because of 3 particular things, and those things were pretty important to my family and our homeschool journey. And the first one was the cost of it, and it was very cost effective. So that was a big draw for me. The second one was ease of use. I wanted something that was open and go, and something I didn't have to do much planning for, that I could just take it and go with it and make it kind of our own. And then next was that a big draw was that all of my children would be in the same time period reading the same kind of books that particular year. And so that has really brought a cohesion to our homeschool. I know before we started using A Gentle Feast, it felt more chaotic. I was putting things together on my own. But when I began using that curriculum, it definitely brought kind of a unity to our homeschool, and it brought peace to our homeschool, and gave me a peace of mind. And also, it helped my kids as they've gotten older to become more independent and take more responsibility in their learning, which is what you want, as a mom. Um you want them to take the responsibility for their own learning.
Yeah, that's so good. So, Emily, what kind of continuing education opportunities does a Gentle Feast offer? Because that can be really important for people as they're starting and they're reading or,
Yeah.
going through things and they're, need help troubleshooting. So, like, what opportunities does it offer?
So they do have continuing education. They have videos and they have courses that you can take. Um and they have things for those that are brand new to homeschooling. They have things for implementing Charlotte Mason into your homeschool, and they also have courses for moms that have been doing this a long time. I recently read one on burnout, which is a big thing. And so they have a monthly newsletter, which I get. It's sent straight to your email. They have a podcast that you can listen to called the Feast Life, and there's a blog. So there's a lot of options for continuing education in your preferred method.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Okay. And so, in your opinion, what do you feel like, maybe the type of mom or the season of life she might be in who would be best suited for a Gentle Feast?
I think it's really good for a mom who wants an open and go curriculum, something really easy to use. A mom that wants everything kind of planned out for them, doesn't have to put anything together herself, but also wants flexibility within the curriculum to make it fit the needs of her family. And I know that I'm able to do that myself. The curriculum is for the mom that wants a Christ centered home, and an education for children that's based off the Charlotte Mason method and uses living books.
Awesome.
So I know that for me, it promoted peace and education independence in my kids and in my home. And I know that I have a peace of mind knowing that my kids are getting a good education.
That's awesome. Yay! Well, thank you so much for sharing about Gentle Feast, and you'll be sharing more about the curriculum at the conference. And so hopefully that gives people a little taste about Gentle Feast.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to pop over to Sarah, and she is representing the Alveary. And so, Sarah, what drew you to the curriculum, the Alveary, and what keeps you using them?
I think I started sharing a little bit of that earlier. Um, it, I had really just pulled things together a lot when my kids were little. There weren't really a lot of Charlotte Mason curriculums except maybe Ambleside. I think simply Charlotte Mason kind of came around as well. But other than those two, there just wasn't a lot of options. And, my kids were little. We just had a fun time looking through these great living book lists and picking stuff. But at some point, I did realize I'm really going to need some hand holding through middle school and high school. So I wanted something that went all the way through and that felt like it was going to be like complete and comprehensive and have some continuity as we headed into years where the academic stuff was going to be more challenging, a little out of my wheelhouse a little bit. And so I wanted something that was um, that would really support that and also have a lot of detail in the plan. So I was not feeling I was always having to supplement, okay, I didn't just want a reading list. I wanted a plan that went with it. And the Alveary really has very comprehensive lesson plans and it has everything. It's great if you have multiple kids because once you pay into it for the year, you get all the levels of lesson plans for all the grades. So for me, when I had, a lot of kids at home, it really was it's a better deal the more kids you have because you have access to all of this. And
Yeah.
it has Like Emily said, another really big piece for me was keeping my kids in the same history cycle. We had found a lot of joy in all living through the American Revolution together and then moving on to the Civil War. And I really wanted to keep that. And so with the Alveary, we were able to do that and have our literature pieces also line up with our history cycle. Our picture study, composer study all line up with that history cycle as well. So I love that continuity and love the support, love the detailed lesson plans. So it's been a good fit for our family all these years.
So it sounds like just the simplicity of everything lining up and it being, as, a lot, as, I guess a lot, or you can,
Yeah, it
taper
is a lot. And so I would say, like, one thing is it can feel overwhelming when you sit down to look at it because it has handiwork and it has Latin and it has everything, even the things you may not choose to do. Like, it's got the complete feast. So if you're a box checker, that can feel hard. If you're like, oh, I've missed that piece. But if you're okay with just slowly learning and adding and pulling the pieces that make sense for your family in that season, then it really is going to have support in all of these.
That's awesome. So you feel like it does a really good job of spreading the feast,
An
and you
excellent
can
job.
you
Yeah,
can pick and choose what's going to be a good fit for your family.
exactly.
That's awesome. So what are the continuing education for mom? What does that look like in the Alveary?
They have a lot of videos. They have two particular tracks that you can watch. One that's more about philosophy and one that's more about each subject areas, like the practical stuff. And then they also have each year like a book for moms, like a reflective practice book, is I believe what they call it. And every week they just have questions that you can go through and just reflect on the week, on where you are in that term, checking in with your kids. So it keeps you really like thinking and growing. There's lots of book recommendations on the website and even in that reflective plan book also as you go. There's links to lots of articles on the website as well. So there's like that to me was a piece I didn't know I was going to get with the Alveary and didn't know I needed. And I feel like when I stepped into the Alveary, that is when it all sort of made sense to me, like what this
Mhm.
Charlotte Mason education looked like, what she actually did in her schools, and what I want it to look like in my home now. So I feel like that piece is really strong with Alveary.
That's awesome. So I heard you say a mom who has multiple kids, she would probably really enjoy the Alveary because you can get, a lot for the investment.
Mhm.
What other characteristics of maybe a certain type of mother would really benefit from using the Alveary?
I think if you want to keep your kids together on some subjects, it allows for some of that, that combining. I think if you want to have access to a large feast, you want to try some things you haven't tried before, that you can do that with this and it's going to hold your hand along the way. Um, if you want detailed lesson plans and you want more than just a book reading, like you want to know what's a narration prompt that we can write about. How's support for writing going to look like from our moving from oral to written narration? Um, those kind of pieces. Like if you're looking for that, if you're ready to spend some time, especially in the summer, like really digging in and setting yourself up, then the year can be a lot of not quite open and go, but pretty close to it. But it really does take some investment at the beginning of the school year to weed through all of those pieces and decide what you want the year to look like. But you have access to a ton of information.
That's
So if
really
you can do that without feeling overwhelmed, then the Alveary could be for you.
Yeah, that's cool. So probably former teachers probably really like it.
Yes, yes, probably.
Not saying that you have to be a former teacher, but it probably spoke your love language of
Yeah, it kinda did.
that makes sense. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, and we look forward
Yes.
to just learning more about the Alveary from you at the conference. One thing that's going to be really neat, especially the curriculums that do there is an investment. These ladies are going to be bringing their laptops, so you can kind of take a look behind the paywall to see what it really looks like. They'll be bringing books, printed off lesson plans, so you guys can really just have a really good look at, what is all entailed with these wonderful curriculums. So, well, we're going to move on to Laura, and Laura is representing Ambleside Online. And so, Laura, tell us what drew you to AO and what keeps you using it.
Yeah, so it was the first Charlotte Mason curriculum that I was introduced to by a friend, and I think initially the first thing that drew me was the free access to the complete book list because I was new to the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and so I appreciated being able to just kind of see everything. I liked while I was finding my footing with Charlotte Mason, not having to worry about like spending some money on getting to kind of figure out like what a book list would look like. And so I'd say that was kind of the initial thing. And then, as I got into it more, I appreciated the high quality book list, and that um, it had, there's even options for kind of like some of the books even have options for like substitutions if maybe you are having a different learner, one kid that can handle this level of reading, but then maybe you have a kid that maybe needs something different. I appreciate how they, you know, provide some options as well. I think another big draw for me was that the book lists rarely change. And so um, what I was able to use for my oldest, I'm able to then use for my next student that comes in, and all through all of them was nice, not having to think about like figuring out new books, and so it was also made it a little bit easier to like pre-plan like long term because I have the master book list, and then if I'm at a thrift store or if I'm looking online, I can kind of buy in advance and know that that's probably not going to change. And so I liked how the curriculum had a strong emphasis on the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and how they the heart that was put in behind the curriculum as well. The women who started it really had a heart for trying to make a Charlotte Mason educational philosophy curriculum be accessible to anybody,
Mhm.
and that heart has also kind of passed down through the community, and so it has kind of a strong online community either through their Facebook group or their online forum, and there's a lot of people because it is free. There are going to be fewer um, Ambleside Online provided resources, but a lot of the community over the years, has shared or created their own resources, and they, freely share. And I've just appreciated that kind of um, the vibe that goes within that. It's a good community for the shared resources, shared experience, and encouragement. Um, and I've stuck with it because um, it's worked well for our family, and I don't really feel like other curriculums are necessarily inferior, but it's been what's worked, and I'm not really terribly interested in like changing paths and having to learn something new and get new books and resources. Um, and as you do it over time, I've become comfortable with adapting it for our family and our needs. Um, and so um, I think that's kind of the main points there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, and so talk to me about continuing education for you as the educator. What different things do they offer? Does Ambleside Online offer?
Yes. So they have a ton of resources on their website. They have all the volumes available for free, and they have the volumes for free and written in modern English. So if you're not quite ready to start full on with the original volumes, that's kind of a nice stepping stone. They have access to a lot of PNEU articles, um, and they definitely encourage, because it's free. They definitely emphasize this isn't just a book list. You are not going to get the full benefit out of it unless you are growing in your own understanding of the Charlotte Mason philosophy. Um, And then there's also community resources, within the forum, for example, they have online book discussions. So if you're pre-reading a book for one of your kids, Sometimes you can find book discussions specific to those books or the volumes there and have community with that. It does require probably a little bit more initiative on the mother's part than some of the other curriculums. That's not necessarily been a problem for me. I mean, the resources is there. You just kind of have to be willing to take the initiative on your own to access them and use them.
That's awesome. So, we're talking about, what type of mother would really enjoy and thrive using Ambleside Online. And so, probably from what you're describing, someone who doesn't mind putting in a little extra elbow grease and, going and looking through the forum that you mentioned and doing the pre reading and discussing with other people. So, someone who, you know, is pretty self-motivated, who may have the capacity or the desire to do that. Who else, like what other type of mother would you say would really enjoy using Ambleside Online?
Yeah. So I do think that it works for a wide variety of people. I do know that a lot of people are drawn to it if they're having to be budget conscious about their curriculum.
Mhm.
And you know, it's nice in my case, especially like when I was new to Charlotte Mason, there was just it was really easy to wrap my mind around um, what a curriculum looked like. But yeah, I would say, mothers who perhaps want some flexibility within a strong Charlotte Mason framework, without having to like completely build their own curriculum.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think that it works well. Oh no, sorry about that.
Technical difficulties, all
Technical difficulties. It jumped out on me. So anyway, I was going to say that, I, by my nature, am someone who's a bit of a tinkerer. I'm self-motivated. I like to be able to make things and fit them to my particular needs and my particular students and family and season. And so I felt like um, it worked well for me like that. Um, and so, I also think it can work well with multiple children, as well as if you have individual, just like a single child as well. They do have the children on like different history periods, which I haven't minded as much. That doesn't bother me. However, they do have like AO for groups if you're wanting to do some combining within forms and have kids on the same, you know, history timeline. There's options there as
That's
well.
awesome. Hey, so obviously people are drawn to it because it's budget friendly, because once you buy the books for your oldest student, you can kind of plan to reuse them for any siblings that are coming, and you can adjust it as needed for your family fairly easily.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Laura, about Ambleside Online. I know people will be excited to pick your brain and ask you more questions about Ambleside Online, because you are a wealth of great knowledge on that curriculum. So, all right, friends, we have two more curriculums to take a look at. And next, we're going to talk with Stephanie about the CMEC. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us what drew you to the CMEC and what keeps you renewing your membership every year.
Yeah, I think exactly what everyone else is saying here. When I started looking for a curriculum, I wanted something that was going to be a relief and not a burden.
Mhm.
And I consider myself very fortunate because I actually found Charlotte Mason when my oldest was 5 years old. And so it was like I got to begin my entire, kids homeschool experience with Charlotte Mason's pedagogy and philosophy. And that just felt like such a gift. But I remember coming across it because I found like all of this stuff that was like Charlotte Mason inspired, like nature things. And it was just so beautiful. and I wanted to find something that would help me deep dive into Charlotte Mason's philosophy. I didn't want a crash course. I wanted to like really learn and grab hold of what she was teaching. And so I came across the CMEC, and they just were really great at having a program that was designed to educate the mother. And because of the season I was in, I just grabbed hold to that. And then the additional things that I really loved about it was that it was a 4-year history cycle, that all of my kids were going to be in the same time period, and that it was just a really rigorous program. It was, as Sarah was talking about with Alveary, it was a wide feast, and it had just really rigorous stuff. It wasn't letting things fall to the wayside because there was a focus on this area or that area. It just really covered it all for what I was looking for at that time.
That's awesome. So you kind of mentioned how they really want to train the mother. So what kind of things do they do to provide those opportunities for you?
Yeah. So that is an area that I feel like they shine well in. And I wrote them down because I was worried I was going to like miss one of the great things that they offer. The thing that they're most well known for is they offer monthly mother's education nights. So all of the members log on to a call together, and they go through the PNEU articles together. They read portions of Charlotte Mason's volumes together, and they discuss that. We also have self-guided courses that we can go through to cover a variety of topics and subjects to learn how to teach those better. Every winter, there's a parents' night that they host where fathers are encouraged to log on and participate in a education night where they can learn how to just really focus on the family culture and how dads can play a role in supporting mothers or teaching, and just how they can kind of bring a better culture to the homeschool environment of the house. They have a fall mini retreat that they offer, and this is a kind of like a 1-day workshop, immersive style, where the moms can learn hands-on really how to teach these subjects. They have a summers retreat, which is where they provide all their members materials to get together within their local areas. So for us, that would be like a Tulsa area where we can go through their packet and material together and just kind of get familiar with how to teach and implement the CMEC's programs within our own homes or within our communities or co-ops. And then they also offer form meetings each term. And this is specific to obviously each form. So we can log on with the forms that we have students that we have, and we go through how to teach these particular form ages, the books that are assigned, and the things that they're learning during those years.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
Glad you wrote them all down. Sounds so wonderful that they offer all of those opportunities to really help make sure that moms feel confident in how they're implementing the principles and teaching the lessons and continuing to just grow as born people as well. So that is awesome. So what type of mother do you feel like would really thrive using the CMEC?
I think a mother who really enjoys being a student herself and likes the idea of mastering, the teaching component of homeschooling. A mother who just really likes to dive into it and wants to be part of the education process herself along with her students.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about at the beginning about the importance of aesthetics, when you're choosing a curriculum and stuff like that, I have something that I always say to people when they come to me and say they're interested in getting a peek behind CMEC or other programs. I want to remind everybody all the time, always choose academics over aesthetics. Don't let the prettiness get you excited. It really boils down to what they're offering, whether it's any of these wonderful programs and curriculums that you have listed here. And so I think that anytime somebody says, "Oh, I love the CMEC, but their website is so ugly," or something like that, I'm like, I know, but just ignore that. It's about the academics anyways.
Such a good reminder. I wish you were there to tell me that many years ago. It would have saved me. That's wonderful. So a mom who really wants to learn herself is
Mhm.
somebody who's really going to thrive. So this is definitely not an open and go type of curriculum.
No.
This is something that you're going to have to invest some time and effort into. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I would say that's actually kind of similar to the way Ambleside Online operates from what I've seen. The CMEC will give you the books and the suggested chapters or the suggested pages for that semester, but they are not going to break down to you a captain idea or what pages you should read on what day. It's really the mom making that breakdown herself when she's planning her school year.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, you can customize it to what
Yeah.
works for your family. So awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing about the CMEC. You will have, people will be able to look behind the paywall. You're going to be bringing books, some
Yes.
lessons that your students have done. So people will be able to really learn more about the CMEC. So thank you so much. Okay, well, last but not least, we have Miss Kelsey, and she's going to be sharing about Simply Charlotte Mason. So, Kelsey, tell us a little bit about what drew you to Simply Charlotte Mason and what keeps you coming back for more.
What drew me is I was a little bit later to homeschooling, and I kind of made this decision on the whim, during COVID, like some people. So it was like 2 weeks before school was going to start, and I was like, I'm going to take the plunge. And anyone that I had known to homeschool was more like an online situation. I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And when I found Charlotte Mason, it really resonated with me, but I was still like really confused about what it was all at the same time. So I just like listened to podcasts nonstop. And I found Simply Charlotte Mason's podcast through Sonia Schaefer. And she does a lot of podcasts talking about the values of Charlotte Mason and just simple things like what does a nature study look like? So many different learning aspects to parenting and teaching your children. And so I really, really was drawn to the name because I needed something simple. I felt like, okay, I got to figure this out. I was working from home at the time, and I was like still kind of trying to see, like, can I actually do this? Can I actually be like reading to my kids? How many hours am I going to be reading for like 12 hours straight each day? Like, I just, I was trying to wrap my brain around that.
That's
And I also just really loved the family style aspect of it. And she tries to do as many things as possible as a full family. And that just really like spoke to my heart. Like I just love the fact that like you can have, a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old potentially in the same room for certain subjects. And then she layers it. So at the basis of it, you're learning together, you're on the same history cycle, even sharing a few of the spine books. And then you just keep adding as your children get older to the basis of that. And so that's really what drew me to it. And it's also a combination of kind of different things. Like it's very open and go with the things you pick, but it's not like you're not being a member. So you might pick to purchase the history, and that will be pretty open to go. But you can also be like, okay, well, I think I'm going to kind of pick what I'm going to do for composer study on my own. Like, I think I got that covered. So you're not having to buy into the full feast, but there's options to buy into as many aspects as you want for it.
awesome. Very cool. So, what keeps you coming back for more? Is it just the family style learning, or just you're familiar with it and you're like, this is the way we're going to do it?
I think it really is the family style. I mean, and at this point, it just kind of feels like home to me. I know how to like copy and paste my things quickly, and like
Yeah.
I know the feel of the lessons, and there are little things here and there, but overall, I've really enjoyed it for our family, and I feel like we've gotten closer together, me and my kids, and as a family unit, learning together and being able to do it over years, you kind of see those connections being made more and so that's been really neat for us.
Awesome. That's so sweet to hear. Okay, so you mentioned before about Sonia Schaefer's podcast, and she has a lot of YouTube videos. So tell us a little bit more about the continuing education options that Simply Charlotte Mason offers.
Yeah, she like I said, it's not as much of a community. There are like you can search for a lot of books, and she's got a lot of free material online. As far as book lists and different things, you can see samples of all the curriculum before you purchase it overall for the most part. And so she has a blog And the blog is the same for the podcast and the YouTube. So if you prefer to watch it or listen or read, you have all those options. And she really covers so many different topics, and it goes back several years. So you can go through the archives. And sometimes I even re-listen to some that I've done. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I could relook at nature study, for instance, or I want a fresh look at this. And she's got many over nature study throughout the years and different people on, but that's the main avenue for continued education. And she even talks about the volumes and different principles of, how to do habits, and it's very well rounded, but that's the main mode is through her blog slash podcast.
That's awesome. Okay, so the mom who's going to enjoy Simply Charlotte Mason will be somebody who enjoys family style learning. It's somewhat open and go. You can choose what portions of the feast you're in need of that year. What else would you say would be, it would be ideal for this style of parent?
I think if you're kind of drawn to a little bit more practical, like I know that you guys talk about beautiful and I do like pretty things, but I kind of like the practicalness of it. Like I like to be able to plainly see this is what we should be doing, and having things laid out like, okay, term 1, we're using these books on these weeks, and I can flip through pretty quickly. To me, I don't work from home anymore, but I was working full time from home. So that was really like, if time, not saying spend the adequate time, but if time is a little bit of the essence for you and you're like, okay, I need to be able to like focus, but I'm going to only be able to homeschool for X amount of time each day, and I need to be able to like get that accomplished and see it clearly. I think that's
That's awesome.
a great thing.
To someone who has some time restraints, this can be really pretty simple for them.
Mhm.
Ladies, thank you so much for each taking the time to just share about the curriculum. I know that took some time for you to gather your thoughts and to think through what's going to be helpful for the listeners. So thank you so much. We have one last question. This is going to be one of our longer episodes, but it's good. It's worth it. And we're just going to popcorn this one, so feel free to unmute yourself. But the question is this: if a mom feels overwhelmed with which one to choose, oh my gosh, I love the family style learning of Simply Charlotte Mason, and I love the mother's education from CMEC, and I love that I can see all 12 years with Ambleside Online. That can feel overwhelming because you love all the things about all the curriculums. So what would you tell to the mom who feels overwhelmed and maybe a little discouraged because it all's so good? Like, what advice would you give to that mom? I'm going to start with Emily first, and whoever else wants to share, feel free.
Well, personally, I know when I felt overwhelmed, I stopped and I prayed about it. I asked the Lord to help me to see what was best for my family and what needs, needed to be met. And then next, I would say make a list, write down what things are most important um, to your family, what things are affecting your family life. And like we've said, there's no one size fits all curriculum. Every family is different, so you do need to pinpoint what um what are the needs of your family. And so once you're able to look at that, that can give you good clarity on choosing the right curriculum for you. And then I would say don't stress about it, relax. Remember your curriculum, it is a tool for you. It does not own you. And I always say we take it 1 year at a time. And if it's not working for you, you can always, change it up, do something else next year.
That's really good. That's awesome. Thank you, Emily. Sarah, what about you?
Oh, my first thought was that they should come to the conference, Elise, so they can hear more about each
Yes.
one of these.
I love that answer. That is a good one.
Another thing I thought of was that when I started the Alveary, I started doing it with a friend, and we had some other friends along the way who also joined. And I realized how what a gift that was, what a plus that was for us, because as our kids entered high school, they were able to do certain classes, subjects, books together with friends and have those conversations that honestly felt really important at high school. And we were able to share the load some and also just like, you know, discuss things together. Hey, how's that working? Is that book working for you? So sometimes finding a curriculum that fits with some of your friends can be a big deal, and that might be something that's important. So you might consider that as you think about it. Of course, the things Emily said are golden, to pray about it, to make those lists. And also, like listening to each of you, I feel excited about each of these curriculums. Like, oh, that sounds really good. So just knowing, I don't think you can make a bad choice
Yes.
if you do it with prayer and research, and you are going to tweak whichever one you pick anyway. So none of it is going to be perfect and it's not going to be bad. It's just you're going to figure out, your children, what works for you, your time limits, your money limits, and you're going to tweak away and it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's so good. Great thoughts. Kelsey, what about you?
Well, like Sarah said, I love a panel. And so I'm super excited about being on this panel because I would have just loved having this as a resource, especially, 5, 6 years ago. But I think if you can sample things, like I know I'm a huge proponent of podcasts because you can listen while you do laundry and the boring parts of life. If you can sample, a Simply Charlotte Mason podcast or a Gentle Feast podcast a little bit here and there and kind of see like, oh, I just kind of vibe with this, it kind of will give you maybe a little clue like, okay, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that one. But yeah,
No,
I'm excited about this panel.
that's really good. Awesome. Stephanie, what about you?
Yeah, I think so much of what we've already said is very true. I think that mothers really have to take their own personalities into consideration. When you're looking at curriculum, you need it to work for your students. Obviously, that's key. But if you're a type C or B mom trying to fit into a type A curriculum or vice versa, that's just not going to jive or work long term. So looking at your own personality and looking into your family culture and your support, do we have time to invest this much into setting up our curriculum? Does my spouse want to participate, or is he or she too busy to participate? Like those things matter because that really is like when you're looking at the details of each curriculum, that's really some of the deciding factors that get overlooked sometimes because it may look good because someone else is making it work, but they're not you and you're not them. So
No, that's really good. That's really great advice. Laura Shepherd, any final thoughts? Any advice you would give to the mom who wants to try to do it all, feels a little overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has said things that I 100% agree with. Each curriculum is going to have its strengths and maybe its weaknesses. And I think being okay with the fact that there isn't a perfect curriculum is, I think, one of the most important things to recognize. Every curriculum is going to have those things that you love, and then those things that kind of niggle and bother you a little bit. But ultimately, they're not deal breakers. And I do agree with the idea of the aspect of that being able to do the curriculum with kind of a shared community, whether it's online or in person, is really beneficial to have those people to do it with. You can benefit from their ideas and their thoughts and their experience, and then um, getting to if you're in that deciding process, getting to talk one-on-one with people who do use the curriculum that you're looking at is, I feel like, for me, so much more beneficial than just reading about it on my own or looking at samples on my own, because getting to hear from people who are like in the trenches with it can give perspective that might be a little bit harder to get just from reading about it.
Oh,
So yeah.
that's so great. Awesome. Man, you guys are so wise. I'm so glad I get to do life with you. And, we're going to dive more into this topic, and I'm sure there'll be some other great things that come up at the conference. And so, do want to invite everyone that's listening to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Conference. It's happening July 17th and 18th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you want to come on the 17th, we've been talking so much about these wonderful curriculums, and there's a wait list to come on Friday. And so if you are interested, We want to get you on the wait list so that you can be in the room and learn more from these amazing women. Also, on Friday, Rachel Bird is going to be talking about how to schedule your days, how to schedule your weeks. It's something that is so important as you are preparing to walk into a school year, is budgeting your time. You only get so much, and you want to make sure you're making the most out of it. So that's what's going to be happening on Friday. Saturday, we're so excited to welcome Karen Glass as our keynote speaker. Some of these ladies are going to be sharing also some important sessions. We've got some practical things that'll help just enrich and encourage you as an educator. And then in the afternoon, we're just focusing on enjoying learning, because not only are we educators, but we're lifelong learners. And so that is what we're talking about. That's our theme for this year, is for the love of learning. And so we hope that you'll join us. You can go to charlottemasonenrichment.com/conference to get more information, to get your ticket. You can come to Tulsa. We would love to be able to get to see you face to face. And if that's not an option, you can also join us virtually. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode. It was a little longer than our normal episodes, but it was so good and so rich. And so I hope that it really just aids you and blesses you on your educational journey. And we will be back the next time with another great episode. I want to remind you what Charlotte always says, is that the only true education is self-education. And so we're never going to stop learning. We're never going to stop growing. And we will see you on the next episode. Oh, there.